Being that it's 9 o'clock. And the first day of June. This is PNF. Pardon me, the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. We'll call to order. First order of business is public comments. Do you have any public comments in the room? Okay. So the next,
Running Zoom.
yeah, wait a minute, is there any
Hands
Zoom?
are up.
No hand? No, no. All right, we'll close public comments. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes, Dave?
To move to approve. Second.
Who took that second? Bender? Okay. We have a report coming from Paul.
We got a vote on this?
I'm sorry, I'm just at a loss here. Let's start the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Paul, we got you for the minutes, or for the report on the finance department.
Right, I just provided you with the general fund balance, which is the first page, which is currently at 51.5 million. The majority of that, or there is a good portion of that, which is from the Spirit Fund. Because the Spirit Fund is included in the roll-up as part of the general fund, even though it is specifically a specific revenue fund. So that is why it's at 51. So just the unassigned general fund by itself without the Spirit money in there is more around the $29 million. So we're kind of on the, I think according to the last conversations, in the low middle portion of where we would like to be. So it's something we're looking at. It is that time of year, getting close to that, to start looking at bonding. And we might want to start borrowing. I've been contacted by Baird, who seems to be the person we have used for quite some time now. So that'll be on the agenda in the next several months to start looking at that more detail. So that was just a little bit on the general fund balance. I'm looking forward to for August meeting. I won't be here for the July, I'll be out of town, but for the August meeting, I'm hoping I'll do a Q2 report and have the final year-end report to be able to give to you for 2022, because the auditors are still out right now. We still had a couple questions to resolve with them.
I was surprised you weren't at the board meeting. I mean, I just, normally always saw the finance person.
Well, I know, but that was why Mike was promoted to administration, I thought, but if that's gonna be a role that I need to do, then I need to be discussing that with the county executive. But when I initially talked about that for the position, that was an assumption on my part that Mike was taking over the front part and I was gonna be there as needed or as requested for financial matters. That is something different that the board would like, then let me know.
Go ahead.
I don't think that's necessary. I mean, unless Dave or someone else, they overwhelmingly want you there, but my question is you were talking about bonding. Are the rates?
The rates are a lot higher than they have been. I mean, I don't know exactly. I know mortgage rates are in the 6.5. I'm not sure what the county rate's going to be. So that is going to be a question of what do we have, what do we do going forward. I know there's always been talk on other items of county sales tax and versus bonding. Right now, we do have good money in, we have lots of funds, cash wise, but the general fund is low. I still have to get together and figure out my investments compared to the fund balances and how all that meshes together. I am still not 100% versed on how all that relates to each other and how the cash money relates to the fund balances. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, what was our total for bonding that we were gonna do? I know
10
in the
million,
past
we
10
did
million.
10 million. Last year with majority of it being paid in the first, year.
Betsy,
Yes,
we could maybe let him go ahead with this full report and you'll get to the investments towards the end. Is that correct?
Yeah, she was on bonding, which,
I was on bonding, which he mentioned, so that's why I asked.
so, but yes, it's the bonding part, which I'll know more about and have better rates after I talk to Justin at Baird, so.
Thank you.
I have more investments because I have spent an awful lot of time in the last several months on investments and looking at the portfolio. The second page is showing a cash flow comparison. This is all of our investments that are in the trust. I'm not sure if you're all aware of, we have a associated trust account with Associated Bank. It's separate from Associated Bank. It's a whole separate legal entity. So if Associated Bank goes under, the trust and the investments are still secure. So basically, we have about 100 million, a little over $100 million in Associated Trust. This is showing when the cash is gonna basically come back in and the investments are reach their maturity. So what I've been trying to do is the blue is what it was at the end of the year. The orange is what it is at the end of May. So what I've been trying to do is fill in some of the peaks and valleys that was in the portfolio previously, to at least have a flat line base of this is our safe money coming in, and then more investments trying to go up farther now. So the orange ones, you can see where I invested in 29 and 30, with some basically municipal bonds that came out at a 4.5% rate. So we've got 4.5% rate going out to 7 years on them bonds. So that was just trying to show you what I've been trying to do. And the next page is showing you more of a makeup of our holdings of the investment portfolio. So, we have certificates of deposits, we have municipal bonds, there's, small business loans that is mostly handled by Dana Investments, which I'll get into a little bit later. Corporate bonds, mortgage-backed securities and so forth. So a lot of this is the FDI insured for all the bonds and are all the certificates. And it's federally backed for the most part for us municipal bonds. So it's all rated fairly high. On the next page, I believe I have a showing of the. Nope, that's a breakdown of the money market. So. Did I not just go back?
You have a double sided maybe.
Yeah, there's a page missing, but what it does show is it showed the type of securities they are. So most of them are FDI insured, which are the CDs, or they are S&P AAA, or they're Moody's AA2 at the low. So there are some of the investments that were in the portfolio that have fallen down to a level of A. So I do not know exactly what to do or how to get out of them. So I am talking to Associated Bank or Trust and Dana Investments to see if they can help potentially sell them, get rid of them, maybe take a loss on that, but then take a gain on buying a better investment at a higher interest rate. So I am looking for help on that from them, because that is, I'm not sure how to sell it in that type of market.
Can you bring that back to us with what we have in them and what we can get out of them before you sell them?
if you want me to do that,
I would
I
like
don't,
to,
okay.
and how long we have on it, if we only have to hold them a year
right,
and we get our full amount of value
Yeah.
versus if it's a 4-year bond and, you know, an A rating isn't that bad. I mean, it's not a great bond, but you know,
Right.
they go worse.
yeah.
And
I
if
know,
you
I
got a
just
low
don't-
interest
I just
bond,
don't have
you're
to-
already gonna lose money because it's basically, if it's paying 2%, you get 4.5%. It's already selling at a discount, even if it was a AAA.
Right,
So you're really gonna take a beating if you're gonna sell an A bond that's getting 2% in a 4% range. I guess I would just like to know my losses so that we can weigh out
right,
and how long we have to go on them
right.
before they mature.
Okay, because, I mean, that's why I'm bringing in assisted help to, you know, better get through that. You know, so if you want me to, I just know with the economy and with things, I'm bringing in help because I know that everything's been inverted in the financial situation for longer than it's ever been in history. And they are having trouble navigating it. So me doing it by myself for this kind of money, I want to bring in assistance and get their guidance on it, but I can definitely let you know. I just don't want to push this out and have it lost before I can bring it back to you. So I will try to have that answered for the August meeting. And
Yeah,
if I
that'd be
have it
great.
before that, I'll see if Carol can present that in July. So, the other piece of it, the next page is basically breaking out. We do have money market, so we got $83 million sitting in money market accounts. That is the portion with 22 of that million being the spirit fund money. That isn't sitting in there. So basically, it leaves us with $60 million in a money market that right now we're earning anywhere from 4% to 4.92% in the money market, which is a really good percentage. But as we all know, a savings account basically is a money market account, and that's not going to continue. The question is, how long do you wait before you get this in investments that are going to be longstanding? And that's also why I'm looking for additional guidance and help on that, is when is the time to pull the trigger? As I don't want to pull it too early. I want to have liquid assets for all the projects that we have coming up and hopefully get started. So I just wanted to show you a breakdown of the majority of it is in Associated Bank, but I have started moving some around to other banks. Yes,
Do we have a goal of how much available cash we have?
I mean, right now, I want to see if I can put part of the ARPA. There I said, it's part of the spirit fund money into short-term CDs, 6 months, 12 months maybe. So we're at least earning 1% or more higher. The other 60 million, based on the cash flow we have, it looks like we're gonna use up 36 million of that by the end of the year. So that's gonna leave us with like 24. So I wanna have some extra liquid cash, which will assist in how much we need to borrow. So I'm kind of like I already have the 100 million sitting in the trust fund, but I don't want to keep, I put in 7 million, which is on the pages behind. 17 million came due in the first 5 months. I reinvested 24 million. So I took 7 million of our cash and reinvested that already. So I know that's a lot of cash, but I want to make sure it's still liquid, and as long as we're getting right now, it's 4.92% that I'm getting, that I moved over to Nicolay Bank, and they gave me LGIP plus 0.1 for a year. They guaranteed that. So, so I'm trying to work with other banks to see if I can move 3 million or something over there to get them to lock me in a rate for a year.
For cash flow, I want to say we have a cash flow worksheet that's updated daily. I'll go and the bills that are coming in, but also projects, you know, what the bills will be for the rest of the year and so forth, what the cash needs are. So that's looked at. But do we have an actual target range? So it's not a target range, it's based on what that worksheet shows, you know, we just want to make sure. I mean, is there a buffer? Oh, definitely.
There's definitely a buffer. Is it
10% or?
It's more than that.
More than 10%?
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
Right.
right now we have 60 million. Plus the spirit fund money, so it's $80 million. I think we're gonna need 36, but it all depends if we start spending the spirit fund quickly. I wanna have the cash there, so I want it short term. So yes, I do need to invest it, but like I said, I'm getting not a whole lot of the other projects I need to get done. Because it's taking considerable, because I'm not just gonna invest in anything without looking into it.
Do we have rules and regulations on how you can invest them?
I will get to that in a minute.
I mean, somewhere along the line, we set up rules on what,
Yep, I'll get to that
all right.
after I'm done with the
Got a
project.
sheet there.
So the final 2 pages are basically a listing of. The top part is a listing of 18 items that came due. That was the 17 million that I talked about that were maturing. So the 17 million matured through May 31st at some point in time. And next 2 pages are the investments which we invested for the county through May 31st. So as you can see, 24 million was invested, but the thing was 51 items were invested versus 18 that came due. So as you're going through doing that many more items, almost triple, takes more time to look into, to research and make sure they're secure. So I just wanted to highlight that and show that my next point is I did have a meeting with Dana Investments, who we already use. They manage about $6 million of that portfolio. Right now, I'm responsible for managing the other 94 million. So, what I have done is I've reached out to Associated Trust, who they also provide advisory services that they can do. And they are a fiduciary, so they have more ability than Dana because they're required to act on our behalf, not necessarily on the company Dana's behalf. So if they find something that is more lucrative for them, but not for us, they can't invest in it. So basically, I had a meeting with them yesterday. This is the pamphlet they put together with me. They gave me a rate and I said, that's too high. So they're gonna go back and put together another proposal, which I will bring and let the committee know on that. I also am setting up another meeting with PMA, who is another investment advisory group that can help me. And I'm looking for one more potentially. So I'm gonna look at potential 4 investment groups and try to do a staggered tiered approach where as things come due, the amount they're managing goes up. There's no need to have them managing things that don't come due for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years. So it may get to the point where they are doing more of it, but at some point it's gonna get back to what it was, that the best you're gonna do is 1%, and no matter what you do. So we know it's gonna go down, we just don't know when and how quick. So the how quick is what's really worrying me, where I wanna get this money invested for the county, but still have cash flow available. So that is that portion of it. I did give the committee members a investment policy. This is the latest and greatest that I have. This was in the book that was given to me on investments. So this is what I have been going by. I just wanted to highlight it that yes, this is the document that I am using for investing in abiding by. The last time it was updated was August of 2016. So I've been looking at trying to find time to update this with maybe current market conditions and put in a couple other paragraphs or things that have happened. And I'm also asking whoever I might look for as my trust partner or management advisor partner to help me with, firming that document, which then I'll bring back to the committee for approval.
I just have a remark to make. Some years ago, the treasurer's office always handled this, but we didn't feel as though they were adequate for handling the investments. So that's why we took it away. Put it where it is now.
I don't know if that's the case. I thought,
I know that was true historically, and at some point, just before I hear was taken.
Say that again.
I know that's true, in the past that it was, but it was moved to
I
finance.
just was mentioning it.
Yeah, it was, as I talked to Associated yesterday, he said that it's about a 50-50 split with people he meet. Half the counties or half the people he meet with for cities or municipalities are treasurers. The other half are the finance directors, so he said it's kind of a mix. So that is my presentation.
Any other questions?
If you get the bond, even if you wanna email it to me, I just would like to know what our loss is.
Yeah.
What interest rates are, who holds them bonds.
Yeah,
And I'd like to research it myself to see if it, you know, if it's an A bond and it's only out a year, that isn't that much of a risk.
right.
If we're gonna lose a considerable amount of money, I mean, if we're not gonna lose much money, but. Selling a bond in this market is bad because you've probably got bonds that are paying 1% and 2% and bonds are paying 4.5% to 5.5%. So you're already gonna take a beating. And then you got a poor score on the bond, instead of a triple A, you got an A. So, I mean, if we got a $10 million bond, I don't wanna sell it for 7.
Well, no, I know that because I just bought a bond, a $2 million bond for $1.5 million. Which is due in 18 months. So in 18 months, we're gonna see a $500,000 gain. So there's a couple of them that I did buy, they only pay a 1.43% interest rate. So I'm not getting any interest off that, but I'm gonna get a big payday when it comes due.
So what does that give us the indication of what's happening? Does that gonna be, are we gonna end up like Orange County, California sometime, and go bankrupt or?
No. No, not, I mean, not with the securities that we have in our portfolio. There are only a handful that are probably dropped down to an A. But for me to go through I don't know how many investments there are there. Individually, where they could do it and run it through a program. I mean, that's what I'm gonna count on them for, and they have access to all of ours because they are the trust. So they can run through and give me information without any other documents or things needed to be signed. So that's why I'm using them, but I can let you know what they find.
Yeah,
If
I
they
just
find
curious,
any
I
of
mean,
them, yeah.
I know it's a bad time to sell bonds.
Oh, yeah, if you don't have to, I mean, if they're, I mean. We can't do California, but I mean, if they're a Chicago bond or, you know, somebody whose pensions just went belly up or thinking about it. Maybe we do wanna get rid of it.
Right.
You know, them are the ones that I would wanna definitely get rid of as soon as possible.
Yep.
So,
Anything else?
Just a parting remark, you appear to be doing a good job.
thank you, I'm trying, at least on this part of it. No.
Thanks, Bob. I'm gonna go on now to budget transfer for Parks Department, which is item 6. Adam Dritz, is he on? Yeah. We can't. We don't have him above. Can he hear us? Adam?
Asking him to unmute.
Did John do it? Bill, are you on the park school that do it?
I spoke with Adam
Just
this morning too.
a minute, just give him a chance to get organized here. Is he still waving his hand?
He's muted. I requested him to unmute.
He may be at the window selling tickets.
Maybe at the where?
Tickets for PGA when available today.
And still don't understand.
We're selling tickets for the PGA event. Let's see if I can get hold of
Thank you.
Go in the office.
Yeah, he's,
Yeah.
he called and filled me in and he'd let me
For tickets? All right, got it,
Got
All right.
your priorities.
okay. Well. All right, thanks. It's indeed selling tickets, he's all for the customer, Justin, the Jagger is out today, so. We'll be on in a second.
Revenue.
We had people calling to see if they could purchase those at midnight. Wow, that's unbelievable, I didn't think. Who knew?
They're gonna sell between 8 and 10,000, and they'll probably sell a week or two, so if anybody wants to go to it. you best
Oh, I
get a
don't
ticket.
think it's gonna take a week.
No, I think it's gonna take a day.
Yeah, you won't get them.
Yeah,
Adams can't
Oh, I'm good.
He can't.
But they shoot off $40,000 in fireworks per night.
Do they have
Yeah.
to show up?
Oshkosh fireworks for the 4th of July is like 10,000. And the biggest canister they shoot is 8 inch, they shoot 12 inch,
Oh,
so it's like,
Steve, did you say he was going to try to get on?
Yeah, he's finished up with the customer that he was gonna hop on, so
All
if
right,
you wanna,
we'll just kind of, I don't wanna switch around here and then come back to it. Because we have merit plan discussion right away next, unless you would like to do the resolution for the commendation of Sarah real quick, and the disallow for the claim for Aaron real quick. We can get that in.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to all of you.
Oh, okay. Wherever you want.
That's it. You wanna try to switch that in?
Sure, I'd like to move to approve the resolution for commendation for Sarah Zabliski.
Second.
Want to vote?
I
Aye. 5-0.
would like to move to, the resolution to disallow the claim for Aaron Metcher.
Second.
Don, thank you. You gonna vote?
I,
Aye. 5-0. Okay, now we can come back up here to the parks and see if Aaron's ready.
Right.
Yes,
Director Collar is very familiar with the budget transfer, if you want him to explain it, at least until I can hop on. He's on. He's ready to speak?
yeah, let speak to teacher.
Steve.
He's on, but he still might be at the front desk.
I'm here now if you guys can hear me.
Go ahead, Adam, please, present your budget transfer.
Yes, thank you, and I apologize I couldn't come in person. Actually, Justin and me are the only two in the office over here in the parks, and he's on vacation, and we opened up PGI tickets this morning, so I was just at the front desk selling those. So the budget transfer that's on the agenda for today is a budget transfer for training. When I first joined, or when I was hired by Winnebago County in 2021, I got signed up for Leadership Oshkosh. That particular program ended up, so we put it in the 2021 budget. However, we found out that that program does withspan 2 years, 2021 into 2022. So for proper budgeting or proper accounting, we needed to split that training between half 2021, half 2022. So that is what caused the budget to be higher than we had budgeted for. Because of all the other standard training, our Wisconsin Park and Rec Association and that type of thing.
Shouldn't that budget be in the county executive's budget?
We have registration tuition in the parks budget for like for staff here for Wisconsin. And that was, I think, before there was training budget. And we were taking out 2021 because Rob and Vicky weren't the previous staff here weren't doing any training, so we thought we had plenty of budget room in 2021. But then that spanned the 2 years.
Adam, you have a budget for travel in the travel category. And it looks like that was attempted to draw from. And we're looking right now at the stationery and forms decrease to cover the registration and tuition.
Yes, this was filled out by the finance department, and that was their recommendation because that particular line item was in this, it had budget room. So I'm not sure, I can't 100% speak to why specifically stationary forms, other than that one was under budget. So they were just pulling from another account that was under budget. And our overall budget was 250,000 in the positive.
Did you work on this, Mike?
Well, Harold did, but that's the common thing we would do is just find another account that was underspent, where the budget money wasn't all spent. It's only $350. So there probably was a wide variety to choose from. It was kind of at random, was taken from one of the accounts that was underspent. The budget control is really just on the general category, so it could have been anywhere from other operating expenses.
Thank you. Somebody want to make a
I'd like
motion?
to move to approve the budget transfer.
Second.
Okay, any questions from the committee?
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Well,
5-0.
Chair, if I could address Supervisor Albrecht's question. In 2023, we have a budget established for training in the miscellaneous and unclassified department, not the executive's budget. But 2023 is the first year we've done that, so this relates to the 2022 budget, so that money wasn't available for that purpose.
That's usually vendor and 5-0. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, and I apologize for being late.
No problem. Okay, we're down to number 7, which is the merit plan discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Related to the compensation study, we talked about next steps. We had obviously taken care of reslotting, pay adjustments, but we've known that there's going to be other things that are a result of the compensation study that we couldn't do all at once. One of the next steps that we're tackling is how we handle merit raises, our merit pay policy, how we had spent a lot of money already trying to reduce in-range compression. How do we make sure that doesn't happen in the future? So as a result of that, ultimately, I'd like to share with you a framework of some ideas that we've got and get this committee's feedback to, I think the last time when we did the compensation study, we had good feedback from the committee, the board, department heads, employees, but we also did some pivoting at the very end as a result of that feedback. And so I'd like to get a little bit more feedback earlier in the process. So hopefully any pivoting that we do can be a part of the recommendation that we ultimately bring forth to the board. So as a guideline, I went back through the executive report from our consultant, using that to basically light the way as to what we should focus on. And so some of those bullet points were developing a model of increase to allow employees to reach that control point within 3 to 5 years. And that's something that we know from the reslotting that we have just done doesn't always happen. And then another recommendation had been to ensure that once employees reach that control point, they can have meaningful movement and progression throughout the rest of their pay range. And so that's another thing we want to tackle. And then also in the 2016 study, as well as our most recent study, the consultant had recommended 2 different types of raises, the merit raise, as well as a cost of living type adjustment. And as we know from previous meetings, we only have a merit portion. And so we want to address that by incorporating some type of schedule adjustment. Also, just from feedback from employees, through all these processes, we know that the merit system that we have right now is not generally well understood. We've got shares and it's, I guess, either confusing or difficult to explain. It's just not a simple system, and that's created confusion and I think frustration on the employees. part. Also, there's small differences in merit raises because we have these shares. You can end up with employees moving backwards in the pay scale if their merit raise doesn't outpace that schedule adjustment that we do. And those types of things, have caused or contributed to the in-range compression.
Do you adjust them behind the scenes periodically, like if somebody complains, or
No,
that's something still?
no, the adjustment mechanism that we have in place right now would be to bring a special pay adjustment for either an entire category of employees or individual employees to this committee. And that has happened occasionally through the years, but it's not very common. So to address those recommendations, really the 4 points that right now we're focusing on would be to define merit pay at 2% per year, unless of course otherwise established by the board. Where that 2% comes from is that, again, the consultant had recommended that when we hire an employee, they should be able to reach that control point, which is that, market average for a trained, knowledgeable employee within 3 to 5 years. So if we started someone at the minimum, and if there was a 2% merit increase that they'd be eligible to earn each year, it would take 5 years then to hit that control point. Because we did some of that reslotting, we've also talked about how the area from the minimum to the control point is really that hiring range. And so based on education, experience, certifications, we don't necessarily bring all employees in at the very minimum. So again, that's where we get that 3 to 5, where an employee would be able to get up to the control point. Because of the in-range compression issues, along with, we've had a lot of feedback from employees that, I've been here however many years, I've been here a long time, I'm above the control point, and I'm getting smaller merit increases than those who are brand new and hired. We're talking about doing merit increases being the same percentage for all employees, regardless of which area of the range that they're in. This would in essence eliminate the share formula that we have, and we'd have a merit raise of 2%, whatever the board says, and employees would either earn that merit or they won't earn it. As far as the cost of living adjustment, we already do a schedule adjustment. She talked about schedule adjustment. And what we're talking about is applying that schedule adjustment that we currently do each year to all employees. Right now, when we bring that schedule adjustment, we had just brought one in, I think it was December, maybe it was November, for January 1st of this year. And when we move the schedule, for this year, all of the grades move up that percentage, but no employee pay moves with that. Employees only moved based on merit. So one of the things we're talking about is whatever we move that schedule up, employees would move up with that. So that would, it's going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to help prevent in-range compression because, and we talked a lot about comp ratios before, and without getting into comp ratios, but you just using that idea, if an employee was at a comp ratio of 50, if they were at that control point, and let's say we moved the schedule, we adjusted that up 2%. Well, right now, because the employee doesn't get that adjustment with the schedule moved up and they actually have now fallen below the control point, create some of that in-range compression, and depending on what their merit shares are, they may or may not get back up to control point or a little farther. If instead, when we move the schedule up, the employees would still move up with it, so that employee who's at the control point or any other point, they would still be at the control point. And then there'd be a merit component on top of that.
Like when we just had the step raises, like a new employee every 18 months went up. After 18 months, you went to the B, then you went to the C. Why can't we just go back to that and have a 1% merit raise? And if the merit raise will actually be a merit raise for people that work hard, they'll get a bonus. And at the end of, if you want to make it 3 years or 5 years, depending on how many years you want, instead of 18 months, you wanna get them there to the control point in 3 years, could be 3 steps, you move up a step every year. And the supervisor would basically tell you that, yes, you're doing an adequate job, we'll move you up to step B, or they'd say, well, no, you need to improve this, and it'd put you another 6 months, and then it'd reevaluate you in 18 months. I mean, it just, our system used to be so easy, and everybody was pretty happy with it, and then it got to the point where they just said, well, you got a 3% raise if you could breathe, you know, and then they wanted to go to this elaborate system that nobody understands. When it was so simple the way it was.
In this, while I wouldn't necessarily call them steps, I think it's very step-esque. Because in essence, instead of having defined steps per se, if we defined a 2% merit, well, in essence, every year that you qualify for that merit raise, you are moving up a step, so to speak.
Correct, but I also know that if you've got a supervisor that fishes and you fish, and you get along real well with your supervisor, you're gonna get the 2%. And if you happen to be a guy that just goes to work and does his job, and you don't communicate much with your supervisor, you might only get a 1%, or you might get nothing. You know, it's all favoritism when you go into the merit debate, because there's always people that basically get along with their supervisors better than others, and people that just come to work to do a good job. So I would like to eliminate the favoritism, and there's no way of doing that in a current system.
That's it.
I would hope that this is not based on favoritism, that there are artifacts and so forth, things that you have to show when you're getting a certain merit base and you have to prove stuff. Well, I mean, you're saying that, but I mean, I want to know from HR what they're actually doing. So, I was curious, I'm sorry, what? You're interrupting me, I'm asking him a question, so do you want me to speak or not?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So we were talking about percentages and so forth, like, what is your cost of living and so forth? So you're looking at, if I'm just gonna read, so you're looking at what, a 2% merit raise, and then what's the total percentage that we can do? Like, is it like 4%? So you're doing like a 2% merit raise, and then which is above and beyond what the 2% or whatever it is for cost of living, correct?
And right now, we do all of this through the budget process. We continue to do that because we want to give the executive and the board the flexibility to realize, you know, fiscal reality. So one, we're not defining, I mean, the schedule adjustment would be defined in essence in the budget process. So 1 year, the schedule adjustment could be a little bit lower, the next year could be a little bit higher. It all depends on the market, cost of living, and
Sure.
you know, the budget. So
That year.
yeah, and so then that would be approved through the executive and the board, and even the 2%. The 2% helps us meet that 3 to 5 year time frame.
Mhm.
But we also want to make sure that there's flexibility, because I remember back when we had rigid fixed steps where it had to be this amount. What happened was we ran into years where the county couldn't afford to move people up steps. So what happened? We didn't move up at all, and we were frozen, and we weren't frozen just 1 year. We were frozen many years. And so one of the reasons why I wouldn't want to do a structured hard step is in the future, let's say we couldn't do 2%. We know that's really our target for that 3 to 5 year progression. But if we had to do 1.75, 1.5, or whatever the number would be, in my view, that would be much better than 0. And that's the issue that we ran into. in
Which
the
would be
past.
appropriate for that year. And then can you also touch on, because it's been brought up, you know, with the merit actual stuff, I mean, is this stuff being based on who you know and who you're fishing with?
Excuse me. I'm gonna cut you off on this because others want to ask these questions as well, and give everybody a chance to ask the questions. You've got one question. That was fine.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was the rule. Maybe you should give us a list of the rules and how we're supposed to be in this meeting. That would be really, really helpful.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
deal with that later.
I'll defer my question to her.
So can you answer that question, Mark? Thank you.
Sure.
I
That
have a
could,
question.
Go ahead.
Wasn't that Mark Harris's deal when he froze the wages? Mark Harris froze the wages on everybody. And then we took us forever to try to catch up again, but I mean, I guess I didn't understand your question or what your answer was there, but. That was Mark Harris's doing when he froze the wages.
yeah, that was part of the executive budget. So, I mean, that was part of his budget, the board passed it, so. I mean, regardless of how it happened, that's what happened, and you're frozen, many years.
Don?
I'd like to hear the answer to Betsy's question.
Sure, great question, thank you for asking that. If you look at the last bullet point, and I'll answer the question through the frame of one of the ideas that we have. Doing annual performance evaluations, changing those to incorporate varying performance metrics. Right now, I think one of the issues that we have with our evaluations is that we've got basically an unsatisfactory category, and we've got in essence, a satisfactory category and an exemplary category. And you earn shares for the exemplary and the good category, but it's a different amount. And so how do you split those hairs? How do we say that this employee's performance was good, but not quite exemplary, or this employee's was exemplary and not quite good? And so whether it's, perception, or that's a common question employees and supervisors ask, how do I split that hair? And so I think there is the perception that there is favoritism, because if you can't necessarily explain that or apply it consistently throughout an entire department or even through the whole county, that's where some of those, I think, frustrations from employees come from. So one of the things that we're looking to do is also make changes to the evaluation process, where we would get rid of that splitting hair dynamic, and you'd either, you'd be on target or not on target. It'd be almost like a pass fail. We would still use the 4 values that we currently grade. We have 4 values that are consistent throughout the county. Things like teamwork, dependability, customer service, responsibility. And then we incorporate 3 job specific categories that are tied directly to an employee's position description. But instead of having multiple levels of, did you make it? Did you really make it? Did you kind of make it? It would just be black and white. Then we're also looking at incorporating professional development, some training goals and certain things so departments could focus on. Let's say a department has an issue where they want a special focus on safety. They could incorporate goals for the entire team or department on safety, where employees would need to, do certain things. And again, that would be pass fail. And then we have goals right now in our current evaluation. We continue to have goals, but again, we try to go to this, in essence, pass fail. And part of the idea is, again, at least in the past, direction we had been given was that the board had wanted some type of raise component that was based on something more than just being here another year or another 18 months. But we want to try to make it in such a way that there's less feeling that supervisor benders express from employees that, yeah, I might have got my merit raise, but it wasn't as big of a merit raise as this other person. So I think if we went to a different type of similar but different type of system where it's more of a pass fail. And right now, the vast majority, 99% of our employees qualify for a merit raise each year.
Mark,
Yes,
can I interrupt just?
please.
We talked some time ago about how you get the directors and the bosses, the managers, the departments, and like, get them to have ownership in this whole process, this whole compensation program, beginning to end. And one of the things that I think I brought up was that if you had a common form that would work across the entire scope of compensation, that would bring out these different, components that you're speaking of. And had that read out to each employee in their interview, as they have an interview for merit every year, okay? And have them sign off as the checklist grows. And the individual meets with their, their mentor or their person, their manager. As they sign off, they physically know that they're either doing a right job or they're not doing a right job. If they're not getting along with the manager, then they probably should find something else to do. If they're otherwise getting it signed off by both manager and the employee, and that goes into a file. That gives everybody a certain amount of ownership as to what they, what they're doing to complete the entire process, the circle of compensation.
And I'm working on a draft form right now that incorporates, we would be setting things like professional development objectives as well as goals, in essence, a year in advance, because obviously we want the employees to know what the expectation is, know what they need, so that there aren't these surprises. Employees should be able to go into those discussions either knowing that they've qualified. Really, we want to try to make the evaluation process more about employee development and the goals of the departments and the agencies versus how did my hairs get split and what's how big of a merit raise. Because like I said, right now, the vast majority of our employees qualify for merit raise every year. I think the frustration expressed that we've heard is that they don't know, in essence, how good of a job they're going to be rated at amongst one thing. So here, if employees know that I'm getting it and I know that it's a 2%, and they'll know because we'll be setting up these objectives ahead of time, and we would have a common form throughout the county. But of course, that's why we still have the flexibility for various departments to set goals based on what their particular either department as a whole needs to focus on, or maybe there's a certain team and they need to focus on certain things. So we're trying to develop something that can give us an umbrella of consistency, but yet allow flexibility to meet the needs of particular departments and teams.
So are you concluding elected officials in that part too? Some of those elected officials are bigger than life.
The elected officials, if they are the supervisor, they'd be filling out the form for their employees, but obviously, as you know, we set the elected officials' pay prior to their term starting. So
Just a comment. What I hear from a lot of workers is, I never got reprimanded all year. I never got told that I needed to improve on anything. So I assumed I was a satisfactory employee. So why didn't I get the full,
right.
Because if you come to work every day and you do your job, you're on time, you never got written up, well, why didn't I get my 4 or 7 shares? They need to know that, you're not basically being a team player, or you're not showing up for a snowstorm. You have to improve on that. But if you don't tell me that I'm doing anything wrong, then why don't I get the 4 or 7 shares? Because I want to assume that I'm doing everything you're asking. Just because I don't talk fishing with you, or go skiing, like we had a supervisor who was a good skier, I maybe have nothing in common with you, but I know how to do my job. I shouldn't be held back on that.
And that's exactly why some of the thought is to go to pass fail. In essence, you either get the raise or you don't get the raise, because it gets away from the splitting hairs of how big of a raise. You take that component away because we had over 99% of employees last year qualified for merit raise. And if that trend were to continue, I think it really kind of addresses what you're saying, because employees, they get the raise and they don't have to argue, you know, why did this person get a little bit more of a raise than I did?
This is kind of a follow-up to Steve's. Do you sit in on any of them interviews?
No, it's up to each department how they do that. So, you know, typically, it's always the supervisor of the employee, and some departments will have varying levels of supervisors, you know, sit in.
When we introduced the merit pay when I was on the school board, and it was very difficult because you're dealing with kids and test scores and all the above, all the different layers. But when I think of a merit pay, I don't think of someone who's just doing their job. I think of someone who receives merit pay, and the highest percentage of that merit pay is showing with artifacts, or however you want to phrase it. We call it artifacts to present an artifact to show that you've done your job, but someone who does above and beyond what they're supposed to do. When I think of merit, that's what I think of. But am I wrong on that assumption? I just assume if you're just doing your job, then yeah, you get your basic 2% raise. I think of merit as, yes, I am doing it. I did that extra step. I did that extra, nights on the highway department when they needed me and I wasn't scheduled, you know, I went above and beyond, and I can prove that. I mean, that's what I think of when I think of merit pay. Am I wrong on that assumption?
I mean, that's certainly one way to set it up, and we've spoken about incorporating some additional, there's different mechanisms where you could recognize, you know, either on the spot rewards, or, you know, there's some different mechanisms that we've talked about, but
Because is it really a merit if everybody gets it? I mean, is it really saying, hey, here's that carrot, how do you get to it?
well,
Do you see my point?
yes,
I think just to jump in, I think what you're saying is really the theory on which our original merit pay system is based. We had, you know, 4 levels originally until a year or two ago. We have the stellar category.
Mhm.
That was the way we tried to describe it. You have to go above and beyond. You have to do something beyond even what is normally called for by your job. And if an employee doesn't get that, it's not that they did anything wrong to be, you know, reprimanded for or even spoken to for. And you can't necessarily even answer the question, what should I have done to get that? Because it depends on the circumstances. So that was the theory of the original one we used, but in practice, it didn't work as well as we hoped. And just being honest on that, that was something I worked on putting together with many other department heads, and that's what the county board really wanted to see at the time. And the strongest proponents of that are no longer on the board. But that's really what the board wanted to see, and that was the decision. I was fine with that, and we moved ahead on that basis. But in practice, employees are very resentful of, you know, not getting that stellar level, and they don't know what they could have done to get there. It breeds more mistrust or more of an adversarial relationship with their supervisor, and that wasn't the goal, obviously. And that hasn't gone away. We've worked with that system for 7 years, essentially. So I think we're just kind of recognizing that we had continued problems, and the difference in pay wasn't enough to really make it a very significant incentive anyway. So the negative side seemed to overwhelm the positive side of it.
That's the share, that was the share program, wasn't it?
Yes.
John, you're trying to get something in here. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Good.
a couple things. First of all, really good discussion. I think a lot of good things were covered. We have talked about evaluations not being at the end of the year, being all year round. So I agree with you. One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we're putting this more in the employee's hands and less out of the supervisor's opinion of that employee's hands. AKA, did you do your safety training? That's a point. You can't argue that whether you like fishing or not. One of the things that we can do to do a better job of that? What are the things that we can do to set better goals? Can we actually set smart goals? Some of the goals in the highway department are, does he perform manual labor? How do you manage that? You know, that's not obtainable. So it is a part of that ongoing evaluation with employees that we have to do, all year long. We talk about personal improvement plans, not necessarily being looked at as a disciplinary item. You know, if somebody's not doing something satisfactory for the team, we should have a way to be like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we see, this is what we expect you to get to. And it not necessarily being a form of discipline. A personal improvement plan isn't always a slap on the wrist. So kind of changing that philosophy a little bit through the county so we can work with people all year long. And then you make your decision at the end. One of the challenges is we cannot in government compare ourselves to the private sector. Like it's just not the way it works for budgeting, especially it's more purpose driven. We're never going to pay for some of our laborers or skilled tradesmen as they can in the private sector, but we have a lot more stability because of that. So being fair in that there are some out there, supervisor, that actually, if you don't hit your merit or you're not a good employee, they deduct pay. You go backwards, and that is not something that we're ever going to be able to do in county government. So there's some limitations. I think Director Havoc has done a really good job of feeling this out. We're getting ready to sit in front of department heads and employees to really figure out what's the system everybody feels fair to. And the last point that I have is HR does look over all the evaluations every year. So they have to enter it into the system, and there has been a few, you know, where we have questioned a couple of them. We've had discussions over them just to make sure that some of that, I guess, the perceived favoritism isn't happening. Can't say that it's not happening. I can't say that I like the old system, but I think at least what we're talking about and where we're heading is the right direction.
Don,
I think I'm okay with this. And I just have one question, are we looking at two raise periods every 6 months, or is that off the table?
Well, we're still looking at 2 raises as proposed by the consultant. So we'd have the schedule adjustment would be 1 raise, and then the second raise would be merit. But I would advocate for touching records once and doing a one-time, apply both raises. We do letters to employees every year that explains what their raise is. Right now, of course, they incorporate shares and percentages, things like that. And I could envision doing something very similar, except it would outline, this is a schedule adjustment raise that's being applied. This is the merit raise. So we'd still be defining that there are 2 raises and that they're distinct and they're separate. But when I look at efficiencies, again, I've got basically 1.5 people working on payroll for the whole county. And if we're going to be touching every employee's pay, it's better to do it once.
No,
when you get ready to do the first evaluation of whatever, for the merit pay or for, cost of living or whatever, would you not want to have some kind of form or some kind of a setup where the employee would be able to see beforehand what they're getting into with their supervisor? So sending them a, preparation type letter or a form saying, this is what we're expecting when you, or what you can expect when you go to talk to your director about, your evaluation.
Right now, what we do with goals are set at the evaluation period for the next year. And in essence, that's the same idea that we would be doing under this, where that professional development and then your goals, they'd be set during the evaluation period to be accomplished in the following year. So there would be that communication discussion, because again, we want employees to know what the expectations are, how they can achieve that. So we do a lot of that right now. That's the expectation for supervisors.
I would hope so. Any other questions? Done, it's a nice report. Thank you. I don't know that we approve it or will say anything other than we've had a discussion. Okay, so we're not voting on this.
We anticipate bringing a proposal to the committee next, we anticipate bringing a proposal for the committee to vote on and send to the full board next month.
Okay. Thank you.
I think there's also going to be a presentation to the full board this month, but just along the lines of where we are right now, not with all just a presentation.
Okay, we've covered just about everything except set the next meeting date, item 10. And anybody have a calendar?
It's the 6th of July, and I will not be here. I cannot make 6th of July.
Okay, and that's right before the 7th and just after the 5th. We're good. Everybody like that date? That's gonna be on a Thursday, first Thursday of the month. So it will be the 6th of July. And Dave, adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah.
You might want to make sure that there are more people here for the 6th.